And welcome YouTube viewers to a rare YouTube live stream. This one's all about the Super Chats. We're going to be back in about 2 minutes here. In the meantime, we're going to play you a track from Golden Cat Productions. Enjoy that. We're going to show you some satellite imagery in the meantime. Be back in about 2 minutes. All right, so we're back, and we're going to be answering any super chats that come in. Keep in mind, today we won't be putting your chats on the screen because it's a different type of stream. So thanks everybody who's tuned in, if you're viewing in syndication or viewing in real time. So you may have been recommended to watch this video by YouTube, and for that, we thank you. So we're just looking at visible satellite imagery here over the U.S. and yeah, quite a bit of cloud cover in the Northeast indeed. So it's been a pretty dreary day here. What's it like in your neck of the woods? And we've got a bit of an agenda today, and the agenda isn't really space weather. So this video is it's in the news and politics category. And, you know, part of the reason that we forecast space weather is for economic purposes, of course, as not only the cyclicity, but also the possibility for disaster. So, of course, there would be huge technological implications to the tune of trillions of dollars if we had an event like the Carrington event here in 2023. So that's part of the reason why we do what we do, but also, well, it's a feature of cosmology. So, of course, our understanding of what's going on in distant galaxies is a function of understanding what's going on inside of that star right there. So that's making it very important for us to decide to advance the science of cosmology. And thanks for leaving a comment, SV Thora Sailing. Good morning to you as well. So we're going to start out by looking at some basic info here, as we've got some what you could call foul weather here over Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. If you're wondering where we're located on the map because you're from someplace very far away, like, oh, I don't know, Tasmania, for example, we are somewhere around here. So a little bit to the west of the New Jersey line there. Let me just zoom in one step. I'll make it a little bit easier. We're right about here. That's the Lehigh Valley right there where you see Allentown. That's the seat of Lehigh County. And yeah, that's close enough to where we're located that, of course, we take our security very seriously. That's about as far in as we'll zoom on our location, but that's about where we are. We're about an hour from Philadelphia and New York here in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. So, yeah, this stream is designed to raise cash for the YouTube channel because we're looking at the possibility of actually, getting a payout every month. So we're trying to increase that probability, which is why we'll be answering to anything that appears as a super chat. So that's part of the purpose of it, but also, of course, to share information and expertise. So this is what's going on over the eastern portion of the U.S. Let me slide this over a little bit as I see I'm overlapping. So we've got this ongoing system here pumping in a bunch of moisture. So anyway, that's what's going on the Doppler. And here's our nullschool.net just showing temperature here, and it's cold. It's just cold and gross. It's, what is it out there, Smash Staff? Maybe 43 or something like that? Something like that. We've got a camera. We've got a camera on the front yard thermometer. So on a nice cloudy day like this, it'll be pretty accurate as the sun's not beaming down on it. Anyway, that's just a temperature. That's just the temperatures there on nullschool.net, the surface temperatures. And the animation is the surface winds. And you can see that low pressure there hanging out. Off the coast of North Carolina, actually, now. So this is going to end up here, and it's going to loiter off the coast of Cape Cod. By the way, you're all welcome and invited to join us over on Twitter. You may have 10,000 followers already, and like 4 people see your tweets. I won't say anything else about that. Twitter, we recently changed our banner image. And you may not know what that is, and I may not be planning on telling you. So, by the way, this is a tab we've had open for a while. We don't typically use this on the channel, but it's super good. Let me vanish for a minute. And I just brought up some layers there that I didn't really want. I don't know what I did there. Let's clear the map. Some kind of warnings or something there. I activated a layer that I did not mean to activate, folks. So we're looking at the true color satellite imagery, which is fantastic. You can see the areas that are green versus the blue water. And I don't remember what I was doing with this anyway, so it's neither here nor there. So I wanted to move into the realm of actually, I wanted to move into the realm of finance, okay? So, it's not something that we talk about regularly on the channel, and don't worry, I'm not going to say, let me tell you about crypto. Now, I will tell you about anything that I know about that you ask in the super chat. However, I'm not going to say, let's talk about crypto. So don't worry about that. By the way, you're also all invited to follow us over. Pardon my delay. You're also all welcome to follow us over on Instagram. Yeah, Instagram. So you might see things you don't normally see, like, how about some kraut dogs? So yeah, what we're talking about here is March, because the month of March is a 3-year anniversary. Okay, so March 2020 was a special month, I guess you could say. Yeah, a special month, as a lot of people in the U.S. were just like, hey, everybody, trading in our personal sovereignty for the illusion of security is perfectly fine. What could possibly go wrong? Now, some of us said, hey, that's a slippery slope. Let's not do some of those things. And I'm going to keep it really vague. So this is going to be like a poem. It should relate to anybody. It's going to be like an ongoing epic poem. It should relate to anybody, and it's not written by artificial intelligence. So anyway, we're on smashomash.com right now, the homepage, and we've built a massive web ring around our operations. If you weren't aware of it, I mean, there's a Discord channel. There's a permanent invite link on the Smash Team site to that. Links to our other social media, Redbubble, etc., and welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. And what I'm getting at here is that before we even created the Smash Team site, which is our own subscription services site, where we provide additional content similar to Patreon, but with superior capabilities, we already had the smashomash.com/forum. And the purpose of that is allowing people to share long-form information freely, because we are promoters of free speech. So we will promote all free speech as long as it's legal. And anyway, on smashomash.com, you'll find this site right here, Smasho Forum. And that's going to look like its own site there, as it is a slightly different skin. And this is a free web forum that anybody can join. It doesn't cost anything, hence the term free. And we've got cosmology, earth and geophysics, a free-for-all, general science, our content, the sun, and new users. So, and thanks for putting up a post, Sky Thing. We appreciate that. And what we're getting at here is the free-for-all forum, because we started a thread in January of 2020 in the free-for-all forum, and it's by far the most popular thread ever on the Smasho forum. Now, it contains some words that will not be stated. So we've got smashomash.com/forum. It's a spot where you can see things, interesting things. And 3 years ago today, things were occurring. Things which you may not be too fond of at this point in time. And anyway, we put up information about this particular subject every single day. And we didn't just put up information about this subject, we copy-pasted the information. So it's a lot different than putting up articles and just leaving the articles up, because if you just put links to articles, when you click on the articles, you may find that they have been redacted, edited, scrubbed from the internet entirely. Are you familiar with this practice? So we painstakingly made sure that every day we hosted the articles in their original format on the forums. That way, they can't be redacted. We're hosting them personally. So smashomash.com/forum, all kinds of interesting information in there. And on this particular matter, let's skip ahead. We're going to go to, let's see, I think it's somewhere around page 8. So let's go to page 8 here, because we did make sure that we posted, I think, every day except for one until mid-July. So we over 6 months of posts there. And of course, we put up all kinds of intelligent advice. So that's something to check out. If you haven't, most of it still applies to this day. And let's see, what date are we on here? We're on March 4th. All right, so on that note, let's take a moment here to head to, let's see, how about Yahoo? No, let's go to CNBC.com. We'll go to CNBC.com here, and I'm going to just cover that up because I don't want to show all their news headlines and so forth. But I just want to show you a graph of something that's kind of important. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the markets page, cnbc.com/markets, and I'm going to scroll down to commodities, and we're going to go to silver. Now, one of our viewers actually did invest in silver. I believe that was, well, I won't out her because I don't want to create any kind of issues there, but right here, This day right here was a very interesting day indeed, where silver dropped below $12 per ounce. That was a historic day. That was March 15th, 2020. The Ides of March? Interesting? Don't you find that a little bit too interesting? So let's skip forward a couple pages here. We'll go to let's try page 11. Giving you a little bit of tutorial there on how to navigate the forum, by the way. If you want to skip to a page, just go to like page 2 and then just change the number. Part equals. And let's see. There we go. March 15th. A day on which Bernie Sanders said death toll from blank may actually be even higher than World War II. It could be higher than World War II, folks. It could be a worse Holocaust than World War II, especially if disinformation is shoveled onto everybody's screens all day long. That is what the rich are doing to people like you and people like me. Poor senators with 3 expensive houses. Anyway, the 15th of March, that was the day that everything crashed. Why is that? Why did it all crash at the same time? Well, because it was engineered. That's why. It was engineered. The market everything crashed at once, folks. Do you think it's a mystery that stocks, bonds, cryptos, commodities, and currencies all sell off on the same day? Bonds essentially are currencies because you're betting on the value of the dollars versus the relatively low interest rate offered by a T-bond. But you'll notice, if you look at any major investments on March 15th, 2020, they all tanked on the same day. Why is that? Any ideas? Well, if you have ideas and you type a super chat, we might actually put them on the video. Otherwise, your chats don't get to appear on the screen. Anyway, interestingly enough, here's the kind of news story that was covered on March 15th, 2020. Dozens of toilet paper rolls dumped along Arkansas highway. Now, sadly, the link there, it actually linked to that image, so the image is not there, which is an image of a bunch of toilet paper on the highway. But there was an important story. Dozens of rolls of cottonelle were found littered across both sides of the highway near exit 60 in Fayetteville. Okay, that's super important, right? And let's see, because politicizing a global pandemic because Orange Man bad is totally counterproductive and the work of weak minds don't be an NPC. Just a minute. It might have taken me until the next day. Yeah, Bernie Sanders, he was fear-mongering. Not exactly the most economically sound presidential candidate in U.S. history, right? Anyway, we're just scrolling the Smasho forum here. And it just happened to be the exact same day that there was a thing that occurred. I wonder what that might be. Let's forget about that and shout out to Tom. And thanks everybody for leaving comments. I appreciate that. Let me just see if there's anything I must respond to. Nope, doesn't look like it. So anyway, check it out. And the Federal Reserve is officially out of gas. March 16th, 2020. Americans will not tolerate negative interest rates, in my opinion. Fed rate cuts are kaput, and the market pricing is a 0% prime lending rate by crashing further. Yeah. This is the bust part of the boom-bust cycle created by inflationary Fed policy in the first place. Mankind needs a free market to determine interest rates. Constant inflation is not a good thing, but bankers will claim 2% is better than 1%, because it is for bankers. It's to ensure that, of course, the appropriate pockets are padded. And then I've stated, Let's watch precious metals spike now that the Fed is completely out of gas and will instead crash the bond market with helicopter money, raising consumer prices with more and more inflation of the money supply. You notice any similarities to what actually occurred versus what was forecast there, folks? So, yeah, stocks, bonds, cryptocurrency, and precious metals all spiked on the same day. Do you think that was an accident? And SV Thora Sailing, and thanks for sending us $2.99, says, get a chocolate bar, Dan. Okay, we'll get a chocolate bar. Maybe we'll even extend to you a Silver Smash Team membership, in that's worth a month of a Smash Team membership at $2.99. By the way, if anybody wants an @smashamash.com email address, we've got you covered there as gold Smash Team members. You can get your own email address. If you want like steve@smashamash.com, it's not taken yet. So check that out. And yeah, thanks everybody for stopping by. The point is, folks, that it certainly looked like institutional investors crashed the market on purpose. Because the idea that everybody's going to pull out of everything at the same time and sideline all their cash as inflation rates are clear to go up doesn't really seem like a valid investment decision, does it? So anyway, I just thought that I would bring that up because it's one of these cases when being right over and over again, years ahead of time, just kind of makes you go, It almost seems like people weren't able to see our tweets or our YouTube videos or anything else that we were saying on social media, like Meta's platforms. So how's that been working out for everybody? Let us know in the comments what you think. And again, thanks for leaving a super chat, SV Thora Sailing. I've got a bunch of Dove dark chocolates, so you've paid for like half that bag, and thanks for dropping us a super chat. So, all right, so we're going to head to the financial news here. We're going to go to CNBC and do a quick news crawl. And then we'll look at some other news sites, as we often do on our live streams. And, part of the reason why we organize our live streams into playlists is because we have trouble finding our own content. All right. So live streams, for some reason, they're posted in a real weird way on YouTube. If you're a content creator, I'm sure you've experienced this. It's bizarre. The videos, they don't appear unless you like organize them in a certain way. It's very strange and it makes no sense. So, but fortunately, this one appears like it might actually be promoted by YouTube. I don't know. So yeah. So anyway, all of you are invited to head to smashamash.com/forum. Just create an account over there if you want to contribute anything. Otherwise, you don't need anything. You can just visit links, and you can even share the links to various days. So we posted about that very viral topic every day, except for I think one day I might have missed a post. But from January 23rd until mid-July, we posted every day. So there is a timeline there. We hosted on our own servers. That's by far the most popular thread we ever had on the forum. And it did almost nothing to boost us on social media. So, I'm not exactly sure how many views that was. Let's see. The topic had a total of, again, it's in the free-for-all forum. Let's see. 33,447 views. And by the way, speaking of views, we just recently reached an interesting milestone today on BitChute. So on BitChute, we just got a notification today stating that the Smash News Network, least busted name in news, made it to 1 million views on BitChute. Now think about how ridiculous that is. 1 million views on BitChute. And And how many do we have on YouTube, Smash Staff? 360,000? 370,000 views on YouTube, even though we've been making daily original content for over 5 years. And 1 million plus views on BitChute, where we've only had an account for, 3.5 years? Something like that, and a lot less videos. Probably something like 20% as many videos appear on BitChute than on YouTube. And to make it even more ridiculous, not only that, YouTube has 1 billion daily users and is the second largest search engine in the world. So, yeah, it's bonkers out there, folks. It's bonkers. And it kind of seems like certain organizations might not have your best interests in mind. Just saying. So we're going to play another track for you here, and I'm going to step away for a brief moment. So this is another Golden Cat Productions track. The one we opened up with, by the way, is Honey, I Shrunk Your Soul. And this one is going to be a little bit more lengthy. This is called Le Tour de Chance Speed. And by the way, you can see us all over the internet at Smash-O-Mash. And you can listen to the music all over the internet at Golden Cat Productions. It's on Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Apple iTunes. It's all over the major platforms. Golden Cat Productions, check it out. This track is available there. This one's called Le Tour de Chance Speed. And again, I'll be back in just a minute here, about 3 minutes actually. Enjoy some solar imagery in the meantime. All right, don't worry, I didn't forget about you. We're going to do a financial headline crawl here. And thanks everybody who showed up and left comments. By the way, I've never been a believer in crypto as being a, quote, currency. So it's an important thing to understand the difference between currency and money. I mean, currency is, of course, whatever the current form of exchange is. Money is a different thing, okay? So, this is an important distinction that you hear libertarians saying all the time without necessarily understanding all of the aspects of finance. But this concept that, U.S. Federal Reserve notes are not money, they're currency, and that is absolutely correct. So, what Peter Schiff will tell you about currency is the correct thing. The pieces of paper are not of any value. They're worthless. So, in order for it to be money, it has to be fungible. So, a U.S. Federal Reserve note is not fungible. You can't split it in half and make two 50-cent pieces. So right there, it defies the definition of the term money. It also has to have intrinsic value. So, short of maybe using it as kindling to keep yourself alive in the cold, U.S. Federal Reserve notes don't have any actual value. Let's take a look at 171 angstroms for the GOES 16 SUVI for once. I'm so obsessed with the SDO that I almost never look at this wavelength. And it makes it look very slow because you're only looking at 2.5 hours. So you can see a little bit of activity from this little prominence that's happening down here, but nothing like the 304 angstroms wavelength with that great wide field of view. So, by the way, there are people that work for NASA that are paid to sit there and stare at this screen, as well as, of course, some other screens. But that might be something that you can do if you get a 4-year degree in astronomy. Of course, I avoided a 4-year degree in astronomy because at the time, it would have meant that my job was calculating the redshift of Cepheid variables. And I wasn't interested in calculating the redshift of Cepheid variables at all. If you're wondering what that means that Cepheid variables are a type of variable star that allow us to get a reasonable estimation of the distance to a distant galaxy because of their emission of light. And there was no way I was doing that. So, anyway, these are the decisions one makes, right? I could have moved to California and majored in stellar cosmology, and I said, I don't want to do that. There's a time for everything, and of course, your time for academic matters never expires. It's never too late to, get a degree or whatever, as it's all up here, and you'll have more up here the longer you wait to obtain said degree, if it's even necessary for whatever it is you're doing. So let's put up our CNBC.com homepage here because I want to see what the financial headlines are. I'm going to actually press refresh. Powell says something broke, but the Fed is expected to go through with rate hikes. I'll tell you, I hope they go through with rate hikes. Why? Because I want to see it tank the market. I want to see Fed rate hikes tank the market. Don't you? It depends on how much is in your 401k, obviously, but, this is a concern. And I'm leveraged in such a way that I'm not worried about it at all. Not only because of time frames, as my racing age this year is a 47. So there's some information you may not have known. And, I want to see the markets get tanked by Fed rate hikes because they have to normalize. The markets are too accustomed to cheap money. And what that does is that encourages large corporations like Google, Facebook, Twitter, Tesla, Meta, Alphabet. Alphabet is Google, etc. It makes them incentivized to pay employees and, more importantly, executives in the form of stock options instead of in the form of salaries. And that changes everything because it artificially inflates share prices. It incentivizes certain companies to invest in their own stock by paying people in stock options and by, of course, investing in their own stock with massive ad revenue generated by getting a bunch of people to be very spooked and scared of things that are not spooky and scary in any way. So, this is a regular feature. Walter Cronkite would tend to agree. I believe he has passed away, but at least he had a conscience, and after spending his career defaming himself by reporting the news from a subjective standpoint, at least he admitted it afterwards. He clearly had a conscience. So, of course, he sold out his credibility, but then he wrote a book and made lots of money on that too, I imagine. Walter Cronkite, the original fake news, which was, by the way, CBS, if you're wondering. Yes, CBS is the original fake news. That's why we like to do a news crawl that includes CBS News' homepage. So, but, of course, NBC is interesting also. Many people are always laughing at that guy Kramer with his horrendously failed investment forecasting, quote, advice. Jim Cramer, oh my gosh. I thought he was a little bit off when I was a day trader in the late 90s and early 2000s. But I didn't realize how off he is. He's really off. He's off like his rocker. Anyway, for some reason, certain banks fail and certain banks don't fail, and we won't get into that. But what are the other headlines here? Charles Schwab shares drop. You're gonna see financials get hit. That's just the way it works. That's what happens when you see breakdowns with major financial organizations. The governments must be tapped out or it would be bailing out, I would say, right? And keep in mind, the Federal Reserve, let me give you a little surprise. The Federal Reserve is not going to raise rates. It's not going to raise rates. The next meeting, I don't know when it is. Hopefully it's in 2 days. But it's not going to raise rates. So, and it's because of two reasons. It's because of government debt, and it's because of the market, which will crash if they raise rates. So let me reiterate that. I hope the Fed raises rates and crashes markets, and people realize that it's the Feds that crash the markets by raising the rates, as they shouldn't be artificially controlling the rates in the first place. And they're not going to raise rates because it will crash the markets. Do you see the weird conundrum that happens, folks? It's called being between a rock and a hard place. So, I mean, some folks are able to forecast things because you understand the inputs, okay? So if your model's got garbage in, it's got garbage out, period. I used to write program code, like before going to elementary school. Garbage in, garbage out is all I have to say about it, because you're not fooling anybody with bad software. So anyway, okay, here we go. Here's a super chat. Thanks, Paulie Baseman. He says, shout out to SNN, much loved. Yeah, thanks for the super chat. I mean, you're supposed to ask a question or make me say something that, well, anyway, you've made me say what's in your super chat, so cheers. But yeah, so I mean, that's That's the situation when it comes to the finance station. If you find yourself unable to do this and you must do that and the other is just completely out of the question, it's because of things like what the Fed does. All right? And the reason is cheap stock. You have an artificially inflated stock market. You have stocks that are worth a lot of money on paper, and it's all speculative investments, which is, by the way, to bring it back to where I was about crypto, has no intrinsic value. It has zero intrinsic value. Your regular bank transactions are already 128 or 256-bit encryption. What more do you need than that? It's completely undecipherable. When you get to 128-bit encryption, if you don't have the key, it's going to take you a couple galactic rotations, 500 million years or something, to come up with the answer. So, not doing it. Crypto makes you less secure because it is harder to exist, because it requires so much electricity just to simply do a transaction. I got to talk to 9 different computers in order to do a transaction. How about 2? How about mine and the bank? Of course, there are servers in the way in the meantime. But encrypted web pages, this is what they're for, folks. So 128 and 256-bit encryption, if you don't have the key, is more than sufficient. Having 9 or 900 computers be involved in your ledger is not an asset, it's a liability. So everybody who is a crypto enthusiast, well, not everybody who's a crypto enthusiast, but many people think crypto is magic. So I suspect that many of the same people that think that the universe is electric and want to tell you all about it, want to tell you about how crypto is so secure. And by the way, it's been used repeatedly to catch criminals, because it creates an electronic trail at all of the computers on the ledger line. Geniuses. So I don't understand. Like, people don't know how computers work. It's bizarre. I know a guy, my computing mentor, okay, he could like take a hammer and chisel and go mine rocks and then create the silica compounds and so on, and like build a computer with like nothing but rocks. Like that's how much this guy knows about computing. Are you able to run a PC if Windows doesn't boot? Let me ask you that. Anyway, I'm not going to dwell on any of this crap, but a lot of companies are a little bit overrated. Google, Meta, Twitter, Apple. Certain companies are running software that's like 20 years outdated, folks. Voice recognition software was perfected by the late 90s. You could buy a software called Dragon. Everybody remembers it. The girl with the headset who says, "You talk and it types." It was flawless. I could run my whole PC with nothing but voice commands, never touching a mouse or a keyboard, by the year 2000. That was before people were in their bunkers because they thought Y2K was scary. As the world got less and less scary, people got more and more scared because for some reason, as they had more access to information, they also got dumber. So that's interesting. But I mean, how's your voice recognition software work? How's it working? It's working great, right? Why doesn't everybody press voice to text on whatever device you're using? Use voice to text and type some chats there in the comments. Type some chats using voice to text. See how well it works. Tell me how many of your phones, how many of your devices where you're using voice to text, how many of them have an onboard dictionary and or do anything to learn about your vocal styles and or accents? How many? I mean, like, tell me in the chat. I say I've got a guess. I've got a guess. 0. That's my guess. 0. Not one of your devices has a proper local dictionary that actually learns and makes your voice to text functional. Why? Because Apple iOS and Android iOS are utterly busted proprietary junkware platforms that barely function on their best day. I mean, I don't even know the Apple iOS platform, but the hardware problems associated with Apple are so vast that I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. And the Android problems are 100% software. I mean, there are so many phones that people have smashed because the software is so wretchedly awful. Wretchedly awful is the best way to describe smartphone software. I mean, there are probably open source versions of practically everything that you do on those devices, and they are horrifying. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. There are billions of these devices around the world that are wasting people's time constantly every day. Software keyboards, it's for the birds. It's for the birds. It's a bunch of toasty crap. And so, anyway, the point is, certain companies are still extremely overinflated in value. So don't underestimate the downside potential. That's all I'll say. I mean, if I'm any less vague, I could be doing investment advice, and I'm certainly not. However, what I am stating is that if you look, smashomash.com/forum had legit information the whole time. So March is a great month to celebrate the 3-year anniversary of people jumping up and down and saying, "Look at me, I'm the problem. I'm the problem." Remember that? Go check out the forum at smashomash.com/forum. And what else is going on here? Let's check another news source. We're going to head to... Oh, maybe it's another word that I shouldn't say on the live stream. It's very dangerous to say words. How about zerohedge.com? Put your souls in a demonic amulet before they end up cast into the river Styx, because we'll be covering headlines from Zero Hedge. Boom, boom. USA sovereign credit risk hits record high as interbank funding stress explodes. Guess where everybody's going to hide, folks? People are going to run from the dollar. And guess where they're going to hide, folks? Guess where? No, seriously, I want you to guess. People are going to hide from the dollar in more heavily inflated currency? I'm very spooked. Oh, the economy. Oh, it's so shattered. Everybody hide in your bunkers today. Smash staff, are you done digging down there yet? Are you done digging the bunker? I told you. Ben Davidson told us it has to be exactly 14 inches deep. Not vaginal penetration, the bunker depth. Anyway, I think she's still digging. I don't hear any more sounds down there. And Paulie the Bassman must be drunk and rich because he keeps sending cash. Paulie the Bassman says, "Hey Dan, you're smart as hell, but I really want to know, after the crypto stuff and awesome rant, what do you think about Ether? A push rather than a gravity pull. shout out SNN. Emoji, laughing to tears face, peace from the UK. Yeah, peace, for real. Ether is what I would have if I would have done major investments. So I invested in some penny cryptos. I have a tiny crypto, it's full disclosure. I have a tiny crypto token investment. I use Coinbase, and I have almost all of the funds that I have invested in crypto are invested in Stellar Lumens. So I think my dollar cost average is at I think it's at 30 cents or something like that. Smash Staff, can you corroborate that? It might be 20s. I don't even know, but it's a tiny token investment, and I don't care. I have tiny bits of a few other cryptos, and it's a speculative investment. It's like a stock. It's like a tech stock that has no company. You know what I mean? Anybody can just make a crypto. It's a bunch of math. It's not an asset. The fact that crypto traders claim that the blockchain is some kind of an asset is just idiotic. I mean, how is it an asset? What if the power goes out? How much is the blockchain worth then? Anybody? I mean, geez. We don't spend a lot of time talking economics on the channel. And there are certain channels that spout nonsense on YouTube, and there are certain channels that know what they're talking about when it comes to economics on YouTube. And look, I can rant about various subjects. We cover certain things on purpose because it's really hard. In fact, it's nearly impossible. There's practically nobody that understands half of the stuff that we cover on the channel, much less would be able to produce the content that we put on the channel. So that's why it exists, basically. I don't see anybody else writing the paper that explains solar sunspot cycles. So it has to get done because the cosmology has to get advanced, because there's lots of exciting stuff going on out there, and I would prefer if people understood it as opposed to being confused as hell about it and frightened. By the way, if any of you have read the Robitaille paper on liquid metallic hydrogen as a solar building block, you may want to read it, because like I've said, and I've said it repeatedly, it could just explain all of cosmology. So if it's bothering you, if you just look at all the citations in it and you go, oh, these all look legit, and then you look at all those papers, you're like, oh, they're all peer-reviewed too. Wow, isn't that amazing? It's kind of compelling. And so you may want to look up that paper. It's called, let me put it in the chat since I have my junkware device right here, and I have the paper actually saved, a link to the PDF document. Let's just put it in the chat. And there you go. Go have yourself a read. If you understand what the implications are on cosmology to that paper, then read the paper and read the associated papers if you don't understand the implications. What it means is that stars are way more stable than the sort of traditional belief of what stars are and what they do and so on. Let me just let that sink in again. The Robitaille paper makes stars a lot more stable than traditional cosmologists believe stars are, because a liquid is less volatile than a gas. Does that make sense? It also means that stars are much, much more stable than the people that think that they're an anode or a cathode or powered by electricity. The Robitaille paper makes stars look more stable, not less. So, look, I know scary, spooky stuff in space is very interesting. People like to go to haunted houses and stuff like that. And people are so pissed that they want to see all of human civilization wiped off the map because they've developed a weird misanthropic bent over the past few years, because their brain has been bent by so much propaganda that they don't know if they're... Anyway, let's get back to headlines here. The economy crashing. I'm very spooked. Oh my God. Smash staff. That bunker better be done by the time I'm done with this stream, or I'm going to be very spooked. And then we'll cook some ham. Yeah. So what else do we have here? U.S. intel agencies need to focus intensely on diversity, equity, inclusion, intelligence chief says, because there's nothing more important than making sure that your spies are all homogenous in how diverse they are. Right? Right? I mean, Avril Haines, head of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, testified during a Senate Select Committee that that's the case. I mean, check her out. She knows what she's talking about. Diversity is super important. Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do if you're there in a place like Japan that has only almost entirely Japanese people, almost like Ireland or maybe North Korea? Let's say you're in North Korea on vacation, which sounds delightful, and you're with some other spies who are also on vacation, if you get my drift. And what if you didn't have diverse spies, right? It would be a disaster. You can't just have, like, spies of North Korean descent in a country that's almost entirely North Korean people. That would be crazy. Why would you do such a maniacal thing like that? What are you, a racist? Only a bigot would do a thing like that. Anyway, it's very important for U.S. intel agencies to focus on diversity, inclusion, and equity. Let's move on. And not be psychos here. And because, you're not a horrifying racist from hell, right? You're just a nice member of the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. And we're going to put some soothing images on the screen, okay? Just so that everybody who's been triggered over the past various things that have been stated can calm down. So how about some great images of the U.S. Doppler radar? All right? Some nice chill images here. Just you and me, and deep breaths, and the vertical motion of water droplets and ice crystals in the air column from ground-based Doppler radar systems. It's just a top-notch level map. I mean, look at this area right here. This is like after the rain clears out and then you have showers afterwards. Check it out. Columbus is getting that right now. They're having scattered showers. Isn't that special? Columbus, congratulations. You're getting scattered showers. Isn't that exciting? I mean, of course, it's supposed to be soothing and not exciting, because I felt triggered there for a minute. And remember, folks, dangerous thoughts are very bad. Anybody exhibiting dangerous DTS, dangerous thought syndrome. DTS, it's no laughing matter, folks. DTS, dangerous thought syndrome. If you know anybody who's exhibiting dangerous thought syndrome, make sure that you pop a few Valiums, and then before they kick in, call 911, the Air Force, the National Guard, and the Foreign Legion, depending on, of course, which civil war you want to defect the country and engage in. Anyway, engage in civil. No, just kidding. Just kidding, folks. No, the financial system is not collapsing. And by the way, if you're worried about like who the best leveraged is for a messed up financial system in the world, we're the U.S., you noobs. People are extremely skilled, and they have I guarantee you There are over a dozen places where there's a shed that's completely full of toilet paper still to this day. Because somebody said, we're going to get a shed and dedicate it strictly to toilet paper. You think I'm kidding? I swear to God, I will find those toilet paper sheds, and I will move them to one convenience store that only sells toilet paper. Right? We're going to call it Bunker Mate. Yeah, Bunker Mate. The TP, it might have weird stains on it, but it'll still be on the original roll, never used, and it could have water damage, but it's dry. It's advertised. It's advertised as dry. That's good enough. There we go. That's perfect. All right, so let me check the chats here again. I see a bunch of chats, and again, thanks, Polly, for sending through some cash. We are nearly to the point where we'll get paid for the month of March, although I still kind of doubt it. And of course, the ad revenue is supposed to be generated by videos being seen and then advertisements being played. I know it sounds like a crazy concept, but it's YouTube, so it works in a very bizarre fashion. Check out this low. Let's zoom in. What is the pressure, if you're wondering? Are you wondering what the pressure is? See, this is what I look at. I'm giving you back behind the scenes information now. This is what I do when I'm like, ooh, what am I going to do now? I wonder what the mean sea level pressure is. Oh my God. It looks like some good surfing on the East Coast, really. Although the pressure is not really that low. (1,001 hectopascals). Man, oh man, that actually seems kind of high. So it must be a low relative pressure. A much stronger low up here. Yowzers. 981 hectopascals up there. And over Sweden, looks like 968, 967 over here. Over whatever that is. The ocean north of Siberia. That's where Tsar Bomba was detonated. All right, anyway. What else is going on? Do we have any Saharan dust? Saharan dust looked chill last time I was looking at it. Saharan dust is going on the move. Check it out. You got Saharan dust. All right, so let's check some more news headlines here. Now that I've calmed down and looked at some regular data. And let's see. It looks like Elon triggered an old man with a tweet. Oh, yes. Keith Olbermann. Yes. Loved by the right. As Keith Olbermann, he's been reported as possibly guillotining people in the street in response to tweets. Yeah, put that on the headline. Keith Olbermann, he's been publicly cutting off people's heads. Pretty sure. He says, everybody who does not get a certain type of experimental gene therapy must be killed. Killed today. Wait, that's not what it's even about. These guys are so not bland and boring. Because, like, one of them said, have you considered a career in comedy? And the other one said, have you considered a career in business? It's so funny. They're funny dudes. And then Elon, he's so clever. He's like, touche, bro. I do hope to succeed in business. Yay. So smart. Everything he does is so nuanced. The memes that he shares on Twitter totally aren't like memes that are designed by a 4-year-old or anything. It's not bland and uninteresting in any way. Everybody who's mad about the fact that he's bland and uninteresting will continue to deny this. What about the origins of people's favorite viral agent. Can I say viral agent? I think it's still legal to say viral and agent. Viral agent. All right, so what else? I find, oh, look. Barclays joins Goldman and expecting a Fed pause next week due to financial market turbulence. You see that? That's just a thing that, there you go. Called that one. Because look, if the Fed raises rates, eventually the biggest borrower that there is, the U.S. government, defaults on its debt. You think that's going to happen? It's not going to happen. It's not just that the stock market's going to crash. It's not just that the real estate market's going to crash. Can't wait for that to happen. But it's that. Anyway. Just everybody relax. The U.S. has a crazy amount of assets and skills and talent and training and liabilities. The way the two are separated is the line between who's doing what and who's being done by what. Are you driving or riding? By now, it's far too late to make any real differences, at least as far as the things that have currently occurred in the past about 3 years. But hopefully, you are leveraged in a way that is beneficial. So what'll happen is, well, markets are going to crash regardless. I mean, markets are going to crash. The question is, how hard will they crash? And the question is, which companies will crash and which companies deserve to crash? We will not turn this video into an angry space weather rager video. No space weather rager video tonight. And let's continue on here. We'll talk about CBSnews.com. So we're going to actually let you see us load that page. Here you go. CBSnews.com. A monstrosity. And here's the latest news. It's Biden going, don't go take all your money out of the bank and put it in. But everybody, don't take your money out of the bank and whatever you do, don't take your money out of the bank and put it in a pillowcase. You see, when Confederate money went out of circulation when I was in junior high, my grandmother took a bunch of money out of the bank, and it turned out to be Confederate bills. It's just like when they drafted the Second Amendment. You know, it's fun fact, when they drafted the Second Amendment, when it was first passed, you couldn't just go out and buy a cannon. I mean, it's not like you could do whatever you wanted back in the 1780s. No, that wasn't a thing. You couldn't just go out and buy a cannon with a Spanish galleon underneath it or anything like that. It was impossible. And plus, if you did, the U.S. government would scramble F-15s, probably send an aircraft carrier strike group, and possibly stealth bombers and intercontinental ballistic nuclear missiles your way. So obviously you wouldn't be going out and buying a cannon or an assault rifle. Anyway, be assured that the U.S. banking system is very strong. I'll just leave that there. So that's the top headline from CBS News, the world's leading news source in non-fake news. This is totally not a callback to a thing I said earlier in the video. I would never suggest that certain news sources are less than reputable. Of course, the Smash News Network least busted name in news is more than reputable. We just do simple stuff like create retractions when we're wrong. And we go, hey, I messed up on that thing. Let's move forward. I don't say, viewers, the past totally didn't happen the way that you remember it. It happened in a different way. And now I've gaslit you if you believe me. Or you've unsubscribed and realized how utterly incorrect I've been. For on and on and on. Anyway, folks, accountability always comes. You know, accountability always comes. Which brings me to an important point. If you haven't checked out the merch shop, make sure you check out the merch shop because it's pretty epic. We just put out 4 new designs, and it's largely because of so much nonsense on the internet. So we've actually got them in a rarely featured order of newest. Yeah, the newest creations. So it's pretty epic. I mean, the first one is Chart lighting. I mean, you might not be familiar with Chart lighting, but you probably are familiar with Chart lighting. Why? Because, well, I'll explain it in a real simple fashion. Chart lighting is what happens when idiots on the internet, often herp derps, who have no idea what they're talking about, or even people who are just lying to you because they would prefer to be right than for the truth to be, submitted on a place like YouTube. That would be a real problem to their theories. And so what happens in many cases when people cannot forecast, they'll state, hey, I forecasted a thing. And then you'll go, where and how? And then there's no record of it. And then you go, oh, hi, I don't believe you. That is chart lighting. The person who tried to gaslight you and then failed, they've chart lighted. So basically, if you imagine lighting a fart and taking a crap on your hand and the lighter, that's the perfect metaphor for chart lighting. Chart lighting. Lighting your hand, trying to light some methane, and instead just pooping on your hand and the lighter. Basically, defaming yourself and failing at gaslighting. Of course, the second latest design is MAXA, which is to make astronomy and cosmology science again. Of course, many of you may know about that. And of course, you've got the Croissant Earth Society. I mean, the Croissant Earth Society is just classic. It is, if you think I'm making fun of flat earthers, I certainly am. I certainly am. I mean, this is just another example of people having more access to information and being dumber. Now, of course, in this case, what makes this properly funny is it's like a triple meaning. So we're making fun of people that claim NASA is worried about whether the Earth is a sphere or not, because that's a thing. One of the arguments is, NASA was funded by actual Nazis. Therefore, it's not spherical. Earth is not spherical. Which is, I don't even know what to say about that. Then you've got the idea that, the sun and the moon move around in weird patterns and Antarctica is like a pizza crust and so on. The classic flat earth where they can't explain day-night cycles or the seasons with a single plausible theory. But look at what's going on here. This is bad news. Look at this. Right here at the edge of the screen, we've got that's bad news right there. We'll show that in a minute. You might be able to figure out what it is based on the next image. Anyway, Croissant Earth Society is another great product. And then, of course, the fourth latest one is Pick 2, Fast, Cheap, and Good. You can't have all three, and the rest of those will have to stay. The rest of those will have to stay hidden. We don't want to get too on the far side of things. All right, so and what was I talking about again? Please let us know in the comments because I don't remember. I'm completely off track now. Don't worry. Everything's fine now. Dave. We're back to cbsnews.com. And here's the second more top stories part, because just a reminder, if you've never seen our live streams before, we like to news crawl, and this one, check it out. It's got Oh, they made it better. Maybe they watch our news crawls. Maybe they're able to see them on their YouTube feed. Wouldn't that be cute? If CBS News is curating their news based on our analysis of their news. I couldn't imagine such a thing happening. Anyway, Biden seeks to reassure Americans on strength of U.S. banking system. That's the first headline. And then we've got, I believe the next one is U.S. to extend legal stay of thousands of Ukrainian refugees. No arguments from me on that one. And let's take a little break here to go over the chat. I'm going to bring up some fresh graphics for you in the meantime here. We'll bring up the latest visible satellite, how about? And then I will see if there's anything else to cover today. No, I'm not in my bunker. I'm not worried in the slightest about my bunker. Hopefully you're as frightened of your neighbors as you are of yourself. Remember, folks, keep your doors locked because you don't want the outdoors to be exposed to you. Again, thanks everybody for leaving comments. We do appreciate all comments, especially ones that are super chats, as we will address those directly in the dialogue discussed in the video itself. Yeah, Keith Olbermann. Pretty sure Keith Olbermann guillotined somebody, didn't he? Keith Olbermann, he called for some guillotines, and I think he might have, did he maybe hang some infants with razor wire or something like that? Pretty sure. All right, 8 equals capital D, yeah. That is what's up. So, yeah, you see this nor'easter here, check it out, you got a powerful low right here, a big kink. Let's take a close-up of that, as it'll get very uptight and personal. Check it out. It's going to look splentacular. Oh my God, look at how spooky that is. If I lived on a boat right there, I would so move to Colorado right now. I would move to Colorado in a heartbeat. Next thing you know, the ocean's going to be sloshing up on Obama's doorstep. Speaking of sloshing around, how about if we look at some SGO imagery? There was some sweet stuff that happened late yesterday. That is a great example of a low, by the way. The air on the backside is much drier. So it might look really cloudy back here, but it's a lot drier air. This has multiple layers. It's an atmospheric waterfall occurring right before your eyes. It's an atmospheric waterfall right about there. All right, so let's break out the SDO data here. We'll take a look at just yesterday. And we'll slow that way down. All right, what else do we have in the chat here? Again, thanks especially Paulie Baseman and SV Thora Sailing. Once again, we will respond directly to any super chats, and it all has to do with YouTube. This might be the most comments we've ever had on a YouTube live stream, so thanks everybody who's typed something. And Wild Alchemical Spirit, enjoy your wrench. We are very lenient with our wrenches. Quick consumer tip, if you do have a moderator status on our chats, do not censor anybody or there will be repercussions. We are real free speech purists, and we encourage any legal speech. So you might be berated for saying something stupid, but keep in mind that ignorance is the root of all knowledge, so you may have stupid people, but there are no stupid questions. It's impossible to know a thing until beforehand you are ignorant of the thing. And I'm just getting through the comments here. Once again, thanks everybody who's tuned in. Some great rants on this video, by the way, and we do allow our viewers to create clips. So if you create a clip of the video, you can share just a portion of it. You can also share our videos via timestamp. So I understand that they're pretty long. Keep in mind this is also why we put them in playlists typically. So the reason that we have playlists is because it's very hard for us to sometimes find our own videos. You would think it would be easy for us to just view as as an outside party, but it's very odd. It's some anomalies with the way the software is set up. So in this case, I won't particularly complain about it, but I'll say it's suboptimal. So we're trying to bring up some composite imagery here. I don't know what's going on. It worked like clockwork the first time, and now what's up with that? There we go. And we've, of course, had some great CMEs in the past couple of days here. We are expecting a little bit of an impact. From this one down here. So it might have looked like it came from the other side of the sun, but that was earthly directed there. And let's shrink it down one level. There, now you can see some time and date stamps. That's a great series of composites. 211, 304, and 171. The 171 is the blue. All right, so let's just see what else we can find here. If there's any other interesting kind of stories to cover, if there's anything that you'd like us to talk about, let us know in the chat. While we might not mention it directly, we'll still be more than happy to bring it up if it's something that is newsworthy. So let's shift gears a little bit here and head to maybe my favorite sort of general science publication, at least, would be scitechdaily.com. Maybe check that out sometime if you haven't. I must have never viewed it on this browser before. And of course, yes, people are calculating pi because of, March 14th. It's so interesting. it's a math day, Pi Day, March 14th, the day right before March 15th, which you totally shouldn't remember as an engineered market crash. You totally shouldn't remember it as that, and this channel totally will not have any biting sarcasm. So let's see, some new prostate cancer treatments. That's always nice. Sleep in the V word, your critical connection that you need to know about. Okay. We'll just... What in the... Tell me that didn't play sound. All right, I've got the headset on. I am monitoring as our output is indeed the output for what you're hearing, yes. So I make sure I monitor what's going on with the, well, we can't display that. So looks like a high percentage of rebound cases in those that were treated with Paxlovid. A high number of rebound cases with those those treated with Paxlovid seem to have lots of rebound cases. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Paxlovid. I have some in the medicine cabinet that I got prescribed, filled, and never took. Can you guess why? It's because of the high frequency of reinfection. I said, no thanks. Anyway, food coloring nanoparticles may damage human gut. There's an interesting story you may want to read on SciTechDaily.com. Yeah, SciTechDaily.com. And in a subtle response to the messages in the chat, the reason that you have officially been relocated to a banana republic is because reasons. Right here. Because reasons. Right here. Because reasons. The reasons being these reasons. And don't forget to... Because reasons. And also because the... Told you so. The CDC, they're totally accountable, right? Because reasons. And just in case you're wondering, a lot of plastic everywhere helps with this. Because reasons. So, yeah. Just figured I'd share that info with you. Thought you'd enjoy that. And what else do we have? Black widows are actively hunted by brown widows. Well, it's, spider geopolitics are not usually super high on most people's lists. Pardon me for a moment. I'm going to play another Golden Cats track. Not Golden Cats. It's Golden Cat. Yeah. Golden Cat Productions, the name of our record label. Perhaps you've heard of it. Or maybe not. Anyway, we're going to play this track. It's called 0609. It was the date on which it was completed. It's designed for a guitar, to produce a guitar line. We've given it to a couple guitarists. They haven't produced a guitar line. One outright refused. Two stated that they would make a guitar line for it and never did. We're still waiting. But check it out. It might still be pleasing to the ear. We'll bring up some more graphics and be back in about 2 minutes. All right, I didn't forget about you. That was a chug break brought to you by... All right. I think that's the end. Yeah, I got interrupted by my own track, folks. I forgot where the ending was. And while I am a classically trained guitarist, that one had no guitar lines. I left those frequencies out to leave them open for the frequencies of a guitar. Dag, that low is really cool. I'm going to zoom back in on this thing. Check it out. It's pretty sweet. We're going to switch back to a high level zoom. Zoom right in on the center of that. So that's part of what's going on, but keep in mind all of those systems are still being sucked toward that much stronger low in the North Atlantic. So, this is a prime example of the stronger low prevails. And so, there's a little bit of suction happening around that low, but then you've got a much stronger one. So you're going to have a tendency to see everything moving a bit toward that, to the point where the jet stream should be kinked a little bit toward it. And of course you can see a huge kink there right on where that low is located. Because this is still a slave to this. So the jet stream, you've got like a suction behind the jet stream there at the upper level. There's the jet stream. So it's depositing air right in here toward that low. And there are the surface winds. In fact, why not take a look at that one? It's probably even more interesting. And where in the hell did my weather map go to? My weather map's vanished. What happened? Oh, there it is. So we'll go back to the full disk view here. We should be able to see it. Ah, not so good. It's too far out. Let's try it anyway. How about 50 frames? A little bit of counterclockwise rotation there. Very high cloud tops. casting some big shadows there as the sun goes down. It was a dark and stormy night in the North Atlantic. Let's do a zoom factor low. Centering the map here just south of Newfoundland. And you can see the northern part of the low that's affecting the northeast, as well as this low, which is affecting the jet stream level. That is some serious macro level weather nerding for you there. All right, once again, a reminder that any super chats, if you've got some burning questions, we will answer those. Let's take a look at the upper level water vapor map. It's usually zoomed out a couple layers. There we go. There's a great view. That low there over in between Bermuda and the Azores is much larger and much lower pressure there. It does also have some dry air giving a little push. Also constraining it a little bit. So you're getting very large pressure gradients right in here, as this dry mass of air is like choking basically all that moisture. So that should be drying out there over the next 24 to 36 hours. As it's almost completely, the moisture is almost completely encircled there. And what really determines what will happen with that is the sea surface temperature. And I'm sure it's quite low there. So here, if we add the wind and the sea surface temperature, you can see that, well, there's actually some warm water there. So that's not going to be a significant temperature change, but it's still going to dampen that thing down. Anyway, that's what's going on. Everything looks mostly normal. We do have some CMEs on the way, though, so that's something to look forward to. Some significant space weather is headed this way. NOAA's expecting some on Wednesday, and we're expecting some on Thursday. Let's take a look at the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard here and see if there's any recent changes, and we'll also look at the Integrated Space Weather Analysis Center. So we'll show you a little bit on how to navigate this. Here's the GOES X-ray flux. We did have another long duration C-class intensification today. Peak flux around 11 o'clock. From about 10:50 until about 11:20. So about a half hour peak there for that one. And to see if it caused any additional solar energetic particle events. Maybe. Looks like maybe a second spike there, but it was also quite minor. So it wasn't from a big flare, not a big solar energetic particle event there. And let's take a look at the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard here. Still the same forecast for some minor geomagnetic storm conditions on Wednesday the 15th. So, of course, tomorrow is Pi Day. Very important to math nerd types. And, the Integrated Space Weather Analysis Center. If you've never seen it before, I don't think I've used it on this browser. The ISWA, the ISWA. And there's the app for it. So your homepage, it'll look like this. Save that as a favorite. And then, for example, on page 2 of the Solar tab, you'll find this Stereo A Core 2 Space Weather Beacon. We'll bring up 90 frames here just to show you how we do it. So there's a CME that's got an Earth-directed component there. That one does not have an Earth-directed component. And anyway, we want to look at the current events tab. So if you bring up the ensemble, we like to switch to dynamic pressure. So there's the NASA forecast. And yeah, so a glancing blow there. And that other CME, the more recent one from today, not yet modeled. So maybe they think it's completely on the far side. Not sure on that one, but not modeled yet. And just a reminder, I mean, we can see the location that it came from right down here. And let's bring up 304 angstroms by itself. So we definitely did see an event down here. I mean, it's pretty synced. Actually, that other CME was already on its way out by that point, but that could still be a late collapse there. So part of that filament certainly did collapse, as you can see that brightening. And it is pretty uncommon to have a solar energetic particle event with a CME on the opposite side of the sun. So maybe there was a flare on the far side, but you can have CMEs happening kind of at a very similar time at very different locations. So there could be some deceptiveness happening there. And for things like that, it's better to over forecast than to under forecast. Especially for people who are in space. You know, people on Earth do not have a requirement to get in a radiation shielded room when an SEP happens. People in space ought to be in a radiation shielded room. And they probably didn't get in a radiation shielded room for the most recent ones because they were a little bit unexpected there. So, you know, also with big CME impacts, it does affect people on polar flights a little bit, but people in space, it can affect them quite a bit depending on where they're located when the SEPs happen. So we tend to over forecast a little bit as opposed to under forecast, like your average meteorologist. Okay, so I mean, when you look at the grand scope of things, the big picture, as far as the correct forecasts versus the incorrect forecasts, the record speaks for itself. The YouTube channel has just an ongoing, day by day, like in the trenches views of what's going on. And I'm going to close out this video with some stuff that we've probably never talked about on the channel, but since it's been such an amusing and lengthy stream, let's see what it's like looking for the Gong 2 data. All right, so we're gonna be like the most online noob person right now. We're just gonna straight up go to google.com and we're gonna Google what everybody Googles, because everybody's always Googling this, Gong 2 near real-time PFSS data, potential field surface source line data. People are always searching for that, right? Who doesn't go on Google searching for potential field surface source data? It's what everybody wants to see at all times. And let's just see if we can find the actual maps that we're looking for, because I want to subject myself to attempting to find this stuff by using the search that most people are using. So here we go. I know I've gone through this before, and I just wanted to demonstrate what it's like looking for this, to put it back in my favorites if I haven't exported my favorites or whatever. Which, by the way, I haven't, as you may have noticed. Maybe if I type in NSO, I don't know if that helps, the National Sunspot Observatory. It's not really helping. I think it is on this web ring, though, so it should... Nope. That's just a PDF document. That's not helping in any way. nso.edu. Let's see what we can do there. The point I'm making is that the data is often very hard. Oh my gosh. The data is often a little bit hard to find. So, all right, here we go. Here's the nso.edu homepage. And nothing against the National Sunspot Observatory. It's it's got the Daniel Inouye Solar Telescope. It's pretty berserk. But okay, so let's check it out here. Go to the NISP data. Looking for Gong data. All right, we're getting to a place. We're getting to a place. These do not look right. Magnetic field products. Anyway, by the way, you've got far side images, magnetogram intensity and H alpha. These are the near real-time products. We're getting to the right place. Don't worry. Something ain't right here. Let's bring up our our other browser, because I don't want to subject you to a lengthy link searching process here. I don't think it'll crash the stream. It'll be okay, folks. It'll be okay. I just want to show you the difference between the current situation and solar minimum. All right, here we go. I'm right on the same place, so it's perfect. So I won't even switch to the links to the other browser. We'll just use this browser. It's fine. So here is, this is the latest coronal hole line of sight imagery. The magnetic fields, the Z fields of each polarity coronal hole, and the B field, the sun's B field, right? So there's your latest imagery. That's March 8th through March 13th. And you can see the way Earth has just recently moved from a South Pole current sheet over here into a North Pole current sheet. This B field here, that's the sector boundary crossing. Earth just recently moved into a North Pole current sheet. What that means is that the plasma that is coming out of the sun via these coronal holes is of North Pole orientation. And anyway, let me just duplicate this tab, and we're going to drop 23rd, 2019, and show you the vast and glaring differences. The hell? Okay, I just looked at this earlier today, so I don't know what it's talking about. 2023. Oh, my mistake. There we go. Okay, so there you go. So this is what the sun looks like in the past 5 days. And this is the past solar minimum. And what do you glean from this information, right? Like what do you notice? I mean, first of all, obviously the coronal holes are different spots, right? We're looking at coronal holes here. Green is North Pole oriented coronal holes, and red is South Pole oriented coronal holes. And you might notice something about solar minimum, right? I mean, obviously you can see that the magnetic fields are constrained at the poles. See that? So this is super important because as these features leave the poles, they eventually get to the state that they're in today. And they even get to solar maximum, where you have most of the B field is basically vertical with respect to the equatorial plane. So that's, you know, it's not just sunspot number that tells us when we're at solar minimum, as seen here on the Gong 2. And that's basically the week right around the most recent solar minimum. That's the transition of solar cycle 24 to solar cycle 25. And, you know, the main thing to understand is that not only is the sunspot number very low at that point, but also that the field is very uniform. You have a limited number of chaotic processes happening around the solar equator, and you have consistent solar radio jets at the poles. So you've got this poloidal field up here, you've got a radio jet that's pointing in this direction and one pointing in this direction. On this image, you've got radio jets that are coming out of wherever you see these well-defined colored regions. Over here. Those are protons blasting out of the sun. And there's a corresponding radio jet to that because electrons and protons are dancing. And, this is sort of the underlying process that's a lot less evident than it was to Galileo, right? Galileo could see sunspots, but he couldn't see the magnetic fields because you have to be either using a polarimeter or in space to see coronal holes. So anyway, I just wanted to close out the video with this important feature to understand, that at solar minimum, the B field looks like this. It's very uniform. Coronal holes are fixated at the poles, and we have very low number of sunspots. When the sun is more active, like now, as we are ramping up toward solar maximum, you've got a very different environment. You've got coronal holes that are crossing the equator. You've got very limited amount of coronal hole space at the poles. I mean, there is still some North Pole. So, I mean, that still has to leave the North Pole. But eventually, when you see solar cycle 25 getting closer to solar minimum, you'll see a very solid coordination of the coronal hole fields. In other words, you'll see a lot of red up here, and you'll see a lot of green down here. And that's what to watch. And you can see some red down here, and you can see some green up here. And until that is gone and reversed, you are not at the peak of the solar cycle. There's probably a way to create a computer program to analyze this, but I'm just not interested at the moment. I don't really care. I'm more interested in the mechanism that underlies the solar sunspot cycles. I find that to be a lot more important. And I guess this is where I'll close out tonight's video, because it's frankly getting kind of lengthy. So I'll stop ranting about various things, and we'll see you soon, of course. And if you're viewing the videos in syndication as opposed to live, thanks for tuning in. Now, again, this video was classified as news and politics because it was the majority of the rants, but we brought it back to what most of the content on the channel is, which is space weather for the sake of cosmology. So we are keeping it all too real and doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that to advance the actual science. Thanks to everybody who supported the channel over the past minute, hour, year, and half a decade. In the meantime, I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off, and may that solar wind be at your back.